Fellas, this weekend is UFC 306, obviously O'Malley versus Merab. Quite an underwhelming pay-per-view, but it's still got some decent fights on there, which is why I'm predicting the card. And I'm going to be going through every single fight on this card from the early prelim to the main card. There is only 10 fights on this card, which is significantly less compared to normal pay-per-views, but listen, at least we're getting something this week. So, yeah, we're going to be predicting every single fight. UFC 306, full card predictions. Let me know your thoughts on the card below, and especially the main event. We'll just go straight in there with the first fight. Raul Rosas Jr. taking on Aoriqleng. Yeah, good fight for Raul Rosas Jr. I think this is definitely going to be the biggest striking test he's had yet. But in terms of Raul Rosas Jr., he has impressed me a lot. And what's impressed me the most is his improvement. Obviously, he took that beating against Christian Rodriguez at UFC 287, where a lot of people thought he got fraud checked and it was done. And, you know, he was kind of, that was his level. But he seems to have improved a lot, both on his stand-up and in his grappling. I mean, he went out there and knocked out Terrence Mitchell in his fight after that, where it showed that his striking is definitely improved. And then in his recent fight against Ricky Tercios, again, dominant grappling in that fight against Ricky Tercios, found the submission as well, which was a really good win, and he seems to have improved a lot since his past couple of fights, seems to be rapidly improving. And like I said with Aoriqleng, I would say he's definitely the biggest striking test that Raul Rosas Jr. has had to face so far. He is a really good striker, and I think he's definitely dangerous on the feet for a guy like Raul Rosas Jr. But if we're talking about Raul Rosas Jr.'s current state in his UFC career, I think he has done enough and shown enough that I think he will be able to get past a guy like Aoriqleng. So I'm going to go with Raul Rosas Jr. to win this one, and I'm going to say he wins it by second round submission. I think it goes quite similar to the Ricky Tercios fight in the sense that in the first round, I think we're going to see a lot of Raul Rosas Jr. taking him down, just trying to keep the control time, not necessarily attempt any submission so far, maybe deal a bit of damage with ground and pound. But I think that second round he's going to lock up a submission. He would have grappled with him enough. I think he's going to get that submission against Aoriqleng. I just don't think Aoriqleng's going to be able to defend the takedowns. He's not really displayed amazing takedown defense in his UFC career. He seems to be a really good offensive striker, but when he faces someone who's going to be backing him up, applying that pressure, he doesn't seem to be the most, just the most calculated as well. So I'm going to go with Raul Rosas Jr. by second round submission. Like I said before, he's improved a lot in his past couple of fights, both on the feet and in the grappling department as well, and I think it's obviously going to keep going as well. So I'm going to go Raul Rosas Jr. to beat Aoriqleng, and I'm going to say he gets it done by submission in the second round. And then hopefully from there we can see Raul Rosas Jr. face maybe somebody close to the rankings. Obviously, I'm not saying he gets a ranked fight, but maybe somebody closer to the rankings. It'll be cool to see Raul Rosas Jr. against somebody like, I know Cody Garbrandt's got to fight this book, so if he loses that fight, maybe having Raul Rosas Jr. versus Cody Garbrandt isn't the worst fight to make. But yeah, I'm going to go with Raul Rosas Jr. by submission. Before I go on to the next fight, I think this should have been on the main card as well. In my opinion, this should have been above Osbourne on the main card as well. Raul Rosas Jr., I think he's got potential. He's a little bit of a prospect. I know he's kind of only got hype because he's young, but still. But no, I'm going Raul Rosas Jr. by submission in the second round. Then we've got Edgar Chairez versus Joshua Van. This is a good fight as well. Now, the only problem with Joshua Van, and he is coming back quite soon, but I will say this about Joshua Van, he is a really good boxer. He's super quick. His boxing seems to be super effective. He kind of reminds me of PTN in the way that he just walks forward, calculates people, and picks them apart in the terms of boxing. And I think at one point he definitely was quite a big prospect in the flyweight division because of how good his stand-up actually is. Now, obviously, the concerning part is he only got knocked out like a month ago against Charles Johnson. He got knocked out by Charles Johnson a month ago, and I don't like the fact that he's coming back this year. You would have thought that when you've just been knocked out in your last fight, a lot of your hype has kind of gone away when you got KO'd by Charles Johnson. You would be taking a little bit more time off than just a month or however many weeks it's been. So I don't like that for Joshua Van, but it isn't like he's facing a massive threat. He's facing Edgar, can't even pronounce his name, Edgar Chairez, Edgar Chairez's best opportunity is to initiate the grappling, take it to the mat and try and submit Joshua Van. But to be completely honest, I just don't think it's going to happen. He hasn't displayed the best talent in the UFC so far. I don't think he hangs with Joshua Van in the stand-up. And to be honest, I just don't know if he has the ability to take Joshua Van down. So I'm going to go with Joshua Van to win this one by decision. I think Joshua Van has displayed in the UFC that he has got really good takedown defense. And I think if he sticks to his boxing fundamentals, I think he's definitely got the ability to just piece up Edgar Chairez in this fight, like he has done in his other UFC fights. And going from Charles Johnson all the way to Edgar Chairez is a bit of a step down in competition as well. I know he is just returning, but I don't think it's going to have too big of an effect because he's not facing some crazy knockout artist. So I'm going to go with Joshua Van. I'm going to say he gets it done by decision. Could even get a finish, but again, I don't like the fact that he is coming back so soon. I don't know how fresh he's going to look. I don't know if he's going to be the same. So I am going to go with Joshua Van via decision. The next fight we've got on this card is Yasmine Jauregi versus Ketle and Souza. I feel like this fight has only been made to kind of give Jauregi a free win in front of the Mexican fans. I think the UFC are kind of bought on the potential of Yasmine Jauregi, so they've kind of put this fight together to kind of give her a free win and to kind of push her name out there against Ketle and Souza, which is quite a big step down in competition from Sam Hughes. I'm not going to act like Sam Hughes is, you know, the highest level competition, but to go from Sam Hughes to Ketle and Souza, it doesn't really make the most sense. You would have thought they'd have given her someone like Souza after the Denise Gomez loss, but no. Like I said about Yasmine Jauregi, she is a really good striker. I think she's really good on the feet. She's really good at picking people apart, and I do think she is going to piece up Souza across 3 rounds and potentially get the decision, because she's a really good striker, and I think she does have a lot of potential. I think if she stays calm, obviously she keeps moving because she is a good kickboxer. She's always got those stance switches. She's very twitchy as well on the feet, and I think it's very effective. Now for Ketle and Souza, I think the only route to victory is if she mixes it up with the grappling and just makes it an ugly fight. If she mixes it up with the grappling, goes for the takedowns, makes it ugly, tries keeping it as least technical as possible, I think that's Ketle and Souza's best opportunity of winning. She hasn't looked amazing in the 2 fights that she's had in the UFC, and I don't really like her odds going against somebody like Yasmine Jauregi, who, like I said, has quite a bit of potential as well. So I'm going to go with Yasmine Jauregi to win this one by decision. I think she's just going to piece her up across 3 rounds straight, get the decision win against Ketle and Souza, and then maybe we can see her a bigger fight from there. But I do think Yasmine Jauregi did look a lot better against Sam Hughes compared to previous fights. Against Denise Gomez, she seemed to be trying to engage in a fight too much, which resulted in her getting finished extremely quick against Denise Gomez, but that was quite a while ago now. She does seem to have sharpened up when she fought Sam Hughes, and I think she's going to make fairly easy work of Ketle and Souza, who's well-rounded, but I just don't think she's superior necessarily on the feet, and I just don't think she's talented enough to be able to get the win over somebody like Jauregi. So I'm going to go with Yasmine Jauregi to win this one by decision. Then we've got Manuel Torres versus Bahamondes. This is a close fight between 2 well-rounded killers. It's very rare that we see 2 guys who are on the come-up who are very dangerous go against each other, and this is one of those fights. Kind of reminds me a bit of what's his name, fucking Yoel Alvarez versus Elvis Brenner, in the sense that you got 2 killers going at it. I think it's going to be a really interesting fight, and I'm actually really looking forward to this one. I'm really bought on the hype of Manuel Torres as well, but yeah, Manuel Torres, like I was saying, this dude's an absolute killer as well. I mean, I think he does take the slight edge on the feet against Bahamondes. He seems to be the more technical striker, and I think if you look at both their UFC careers as a whole, he has displayed better striking from start to finish, and he has also got a really good chin. He tanked so many big shots in his UFC career, even that one big shot against Chris Dunk. He seems to be able to tank a big shot, Manuel Torres, so I think he's got a lot going for him on the feet. And like I said, for Bahamondes, he's another good striker. He seems to have improved his striking a lot in his last fight compared to his other UFC fights, but I don't know how far enough he's improved it to be able to beat a guy on his come up like Manuel Torres. So I'm going to go with Manuel Torres to win this one by decision, but it is going to be a banger. I also think Torres has the grappling to mix it up as well. Like I said, he submitted Chris Duncan. He's shown good ground game in the UFC, something that he seems to be working on a lot, and I think he's got more ways to win this fight than Bahamondes does. So I am going to go with Manuel Torres to win this one by decision, but it is going to be a banger, and I think there's potential to be one of the best prelim fights, and potentially the prelim fight of the night. But I think the only fight that could potentially take this away from being the prelim fight of the night is actually the next fight, Irene Aldana versus Norma Dumont. This is a really good fight because Irene Aldana, you need to start watching. I know women MMA gets a lot of hate, but Aldana's definitely one of my favourite fighters in women MMA, just because she's never in a boring fight. That title fight against Amanda Nunes was a great send-off for Amanda Nunes. It was a really back-and-forth fight, great mix of grappling and striking. That was a great fight. And the last fight against Kyle Rosa as well, again, back and forth, looked really good in that fight. Never in a boring fight is Irene Aldana, and she's one of my favourite female fighters to watch right now in the UFC, and I think it is going to be a bit of a war for 3 rounds. And like I said with Aldana, she's tough as nails. She can take a big shot, she can take multiple big shots. Her face gets bruised up in nearly every fight from how back and forth it is. I do want to say she's, defensively sound, but you kind of worry how defensively sound she is when she is kind of all offense and little defense, even though I think she does do a good job at keeping her hands up and avoiding the big shots. Now in terms of Aldana as well, like I said, I know I keep talking about her, but she has got really good striking. She's a really good technical striker. She's very gifted on the feet, and I think she's definitely the more dangerous striker out of the 2 of them. And I think if it does stay on the feet, I think she's not going to have too hard of a job piecing up Norma Dumont. Now, one thing I will say about Norma Dumont is the best chance of her winning this fight is if she takes it to the ground. We saw against Aldana against Nunes. The place where Aldana's lacking the most is the grappling department. Amanda Nunes was able to show that quite a lot. And Norma Dumont, being the grappler that she is, she has got the opportunity to take it to the mat. I just don't think she's displayed the highest level of grappling. I don't think she's this big grappling prospect that's taking everyone over. I just don't know if she's got the ability to take somebody like Aldana down, who's definitely will have improved her takedown defense a lot. So I'm going to go with Irene Aldana to win this one, and I'm going to go by TKO in the 3rd round. I think on the feet she is just miles ahead of Norma Dumont. I think she's going to overwhelm her, and eventually it's going to be too bloody, it's going to be too brutal. And I think in that 3rd round she's going to get a TKO stoppage against Norma Dumont. I just think she's got the takedown defense to back it up, and like I said, Norma Dumont's best opportunity is to take it to the ground, but she hasn't overly impressed me to the point where I'm like, yes, she's taking Aldana down across 3 rounds straight and she's not suffering any damage. So I'm going to go with Irene Aldana to win this one, and I'm going to say she gets it by finishing the 3rd round. But I think this is, again, just like the last fight, has potential and probably will be the best prelim of the night so far, because I think it's a really good fight. Then we've got quite a disappointing fight to open up the main card. Osbourne versus Ronaldo Rodriguez. Now, I already talked yesterday about why this fight shouldn't be on the main card. It is a bit of a disgrace to have this fight on the main card, to be honest. This should have been on the prelims. I would have argued that this could have even been a pretty good early prelim opener, if anything, rather than Raul Rosas Jr., but it's on the main card. We've got to see it, whatever. Osbourne, I said this yesterday, the dude has lost more fights than he's won in the UFC. He's bottom of the barrel talent in the flyweight division. I don't know how he's made it to this position. And Ronaldo Rodriguez, again, he's kind of just scraping UFC talent. He doesn't look amazing. He's good enough to be in the UFC, but he's not good enough to make himself to a big name, in my opinion. So it is a bit of a low-level fight, and it is quite a close fight, and for the wrong reasons as well. But I am going to go with Ronaldo Rodriguez to win this one by decision. I just think he's a more technical striker. I don't think he's a great striker. He seems to be really stiff. His output doesn't really seem to be there. His defense seems to be quite questionable as well, but he is facing Osbourne at the end of the day. I think he's going to walk forward. He's also got the grappling to back it up as well. I know he's mainly a boxer, but I think he's definitely got the grappling alternative as well to take the fight to the ground against Osbourne. It's going to be a low-level fight. It is going to be a bit of a close fight, in my opinion, but I am going to go with Ronaldo Rodriguez to win by decision. I think he's going to do enough across 3 rounds against Osbourne, who, in my opinion, again, like I said, he's bottom of the barrel talent in the UFC, hasn't displayed a great talent in his past couple of fights, so I'm going to go with Ronaldo Rodriguez to win this one by decision, but again, not the most high-level fight. Neither of these guys are the most high-level strikers. I just think Ronaldo Rodriguez is a little bit more complacent in the octagon. I also think he's got the ground game to back it up as well, so I'm going to go with Ronaldo Rodriguez to win this one by decision. Then we've got Daniel Zellhuber versus Estaban Ribovics. This is again a really good fight between 2 guys that have a big potential to make a name for themselves. A win over each other. He's gonna make a big name for himself, get a big win on the name as well, on the resume. But Daniel Zellhuber, good prospect in the UFC. I think he's definitely the better striker out of the 2 of them. He is a great striker, is Daniel Zellhuber. He's definitely more technical and polished on the feet. In his fights, the more calm and composed he stays, he does seem to be the more superior striker. In every UFC fight that he's had so far, I mean, he really impressed me in his last fight at UFC Mexico as well, and I think he's got potential. Like I said, if he does beat Ribovics as well, he's got a lot of potential to be a big Mexican star in the UFC because of how good his striking is, and he's massive for the weight class as well. And Estaban Ribovics, he's a really fun fighter to watch. He's kind of got this all guns blazing style. He just walks forward, throws shots, eats shots. He's kind of one of those fighters you just want to watch. He's really fun to see. And in his last fight at UFC St. Louis a couple months ago, got a really good knockout over Terence McChinney, knocked out Terence McChinney in that fight. Really quickly as well, got one of the best knockouts on UFC St. Louis, so I think this is a really interesting fight between the 2 of them. Definitely the biggest test both of them have had to face so far in the UFC. But I think it just comes down to, can Daniel Zellhuber keep it moving? Can he avoid getting pressured too badly? Can he keep it technical? Can he keep it going the distance? Can he keep it, just a more of a technical fight rather than a brawl? And can Estaban Ribovics turn it into a bit of a brawl, make it ugly, pressure Daniel Zellhuber, as we've seen him struggle with pressure in the past? And I think it really just comes down to that. But I'm going to go with Daniel Zellhuber to win this one by decision. I think he's got the ability to keep it technical. I think Ribovics is a very dangerous fighter, but at the same time, he is quite hittable, which I don't really like when he's facing a guy, like I said, as polished and as technical as Daniel Zellhuber, who has a lot of potential in the UFC. I think if anybody's going to get a finish in this fight, it's going to be Ribovics, but I think I would probably bet my money on Daniel Zellhuber to win this one by decision. I think he's just going to pick him apart, get the win, and I think he can, like I said, can make a name for himself if he can beat a guy like Ribovics. So I'm going to go with Daniel Zellhuber to win this one by decision. Then we've got a really good fight, Diego Lopes versus Brian Ortega. A fight that I've been waiting for all the way since UFC 303 when they were officially supposed to fight. Brian Ortega pulled out last minute, but it's still a fight that I really want to see, and I can't wait to finally see this fight because it's a big step up for Diego Lopes. We're seeing Brian Ortega, who's coming off a fresh win as well, and like I said, Brian Ortega's just always been at the top of the featherweight division. He's fought the likes of Max Holloway, he's been able to survive that as well. He's fought the likes of Alexander Volkanovski, was able to survive that as well, and he's got some of the best jiu-jitsu right now in the featherweight division. In his last fight, it was actually in Mexico against a Mexican, submitted Yair Rodriguez, got a really good submission against Yair Rodriguez when he was the underdog in that fight as well, which was impressive. Has one of the most iconic guillotines in UFC history, where he nearly came close to finishing one of the featherweight goats in Alexander Volkanovski for the belt as well. So he's definitely got scary jiu-jitsu as Brian Ortega. And then you've got Diego Lopes. I mean, the way that he just knocked out Sadiq Youssef like it's nothing at UFC 300 in his last fight on super short notice, got cruised to a decision against Dan Ige. I think Diego Lopes has hype for the right reasons. because he's a very dangerous guy, and he's not just dangerous in one area, he's a dangerous striker, and he's also got dangerous jiu-jitsu. But even though it's a very close fight, and I think it's going to be a bit back and forth and a bit bloody and everything, I'm going to go with Diego Lopes to win this one by decision. I am going to go with Diego Lopes as my final option. The main reason is just because of the striking difference out of the two of them. I think Diego Lopes is a much more dangerous striker. He's a much quicker starter, and I think he's definitely the more superior striker against Brian Ortega. Not that Brian Ortega's got bad striking. I actually think that Brian Ortega's striking and boxing is kind of slept on, but I think Diego Lopes is too good of a kickboxer for Brian Ortega. And as far as jiu-jitsu goes, obviously jiu-jitsu is Brian Ortega's bread and butter, but Diego Lopes has already displayed that he's got really good jiu-jitsu in the UFC. His ground game, both offensively and defensively, seems to be there, as he showed in that fight with Movsar-Evloev. So I'm going to go with Diego Lopes by decision, but it's going to be a banger, and I genuinely think this is going to be one of the best fights on the card, and I am going to go with Diego Lopes by decision. Then we've got a women's title fight, Alexa Grasso versus Valentina Shevchenko 3. I hope this is the last time we see it, because I don't want this to turn into some sort of like Brandon Moreno versus Davis and Figueiredo quadrilogy like I said yesterday. But no, this is a really interesting fight, and I think this is finally going to end the trilogy. Now, for Alexa Grasso, she's impressed me a lot, because her boxing just seems to be really sharp in the UFC. I think she's got really effective boxing that kind of surprised me in a fight with Valentina Shevchenko, and obviously she's got really good grappling. I mean, she submitted Valentina Shevchenko. She caused a lot of grappling problems in their second fight, and I think that's definitely where Alexa Grasso shines. And for Valentina Shevchenko, one of the greatest kickboxers in women MMA history, and I think she's got a lot of wrestling that people don't really talk about as well. I think she's definitely the better wrestler out of Alexa Grasso. When it comes to pure grappling, I'm not sure, but as far as wrestling goes, I would definitely favour her to beat Alexa Grasso. But one thing I will say about Valentina Shevchenko is she definitely seems to be on a bit of a decline. I mean, you look at her past 3 fights, she has that really close, questionable decision against Talia Santos, gets submitted by Alexa Grasso, and then goes to another close and questionable decision against Alexa Grasso. I just don't know if I favour to win this one, and I think out of the two of them as well, if there's anybody that's going to be looking worse, if there's anybody that's going to be on the decline, it is going to be Valentina Shevchenko, who hasn't been able to get a win over Grasso so far. So I'm going to go with Alexa Grasso to win this one, and I'm going to say she gets it done by decision. I think the ground game for Alexa Grasso is going to be really tricky for Shevchenko to deal with. She's always threatening jiu-jitsu, always threatening submissions from everywhere. She's not an easy person to out-grapple. She's got that big jiu-jitsu threat as well, as she showed in the second and the first fight as well. I think she's a superior boxer as well. I would say Shevchenko is definitely the more seasoned kickboxer, but Alexa Grasso seems to be doing enough on the feet with her boxing and how quick she is on the feet. And I think it is going to be a close fight, which is why I've done decision. I think it's going to be a bit of a back and forth fight as well. I know I've said that for like 15 fights already in this card. I think Shevchenko's got the opportunity to win a few rounds early on, but I am going to go with Alexa Grasso to win this one by decision. I think if anybody's going to be showing signs of weakness, anybody's showing signs of decline, it is Valentina Shevchenko. Boxing goes to Grasso. I think the jiu-jitsu threat goes to Grasso. I think Shevchenko's best opportunity of winning is keeping it technical on the feet, going with those leg kicks, those body kicks, those head kicks, keeping the range between the two of them, and then occasionally going for the takedown and try to get some control time on Grasso, which I just don't think she's going to do, because she wasn't able to do it mainly in the first 2 fights as well. So I'm going to go with Alexa Grasso by decision. Then we've got one of the most interesting title fights in the UFC, Sean O'Malley versus Merab. This is such an interesting fight, and it is fairly 50-50. I've kind of been going back and forth on my pick while this fight has been announced, because you've got Merab, who dominated PTN with wrestling. That fight against PTN, I keep thinking back to it, it was so dominant. From round 1 to round 5, just the same pace of takedowns over and over again, and made PTN look like an amateur. The same PTN that was out wrestling Sean O'Malley himself, that was the guy that Merab was dominating in the grappling. And then there's Henry Cejudo as well, a guy with the wrestling credentials and the wrestling background as Henry Cejudo, just picks him up, makes him look like an amateur in wrestling as well. Merab, he just seems to be unstoppable with wrestling. No one's really been able to figure out his wrestling. He's faced wrestlers, he's faced guys with really good takedown defense, and nobody can stop that relentless pace from Merab. But then Sean O'Malley's kind of like the polar opposite. On his come up in the UFC, was just sleeping people left, right, and centre. Knocked out Aljamain Sterling in one of the biggest upsets. Another heavy grappler, somebody who trains with Merab. Got a massive knockout over Sterling. In his last fight, just obliterated him all on Ferrer. Made it look so easy in that fight. Just pieced him up from round 1 to round 5. And if Ferrer didn't have the chin that he did, he'd have got slept after that knee as well. So it is a very back and forth fight. But I am leaning towards Sean O'Malley. And I'm going to go with Sean O'Malley to win this one by knockout in the second round. The reason I've gone with Sean O'Malley is because I feel like with Merab, for him to win this fight, he needs to be perfect for 25 minutes. He needs to be shooting takedowns, keeping that pressure up, and just being able to dominate Sean O'Malley with wrestling for the full 25 minutes in order to get this win, just like he did with Peter Yan. But the one thing I will say about Merab as well, is he's very hittable. He got hit and stumbled by somebody like Henry Cejudo, which doesn't give me signs of, doesn't give me good signs when it comes to Merab. He nearly got finished by Marias a few years ago as well, and you can't afford to be doing that when you're facing the most dangerous striker in the bantamweight division against Sean O'Malley. So I'm going to go with Sean O'Malley to win this one by KO in the second round. I do think Merab's a much more difficult fight than Aljamain Sterling because of the pace that he pushes and the guys that he's beating and the fashion that he's beating them as well. So it's a really difficult fight for O'Malley, and I think Merab definitely has the opportunity to win more rounds than O'Malley does, but I think as far as danger goes and as far as finishing ability goes, O'Malley's got way more finishing ability, and I just think Merab's way too hittable to be beating a guy like O'Malley who's got the striking edge and is so dangerous on the feet. So I'm going to go with Sean O'Malley to win this one by KO in the second round, but that is my UFC 306 full card predictions. Again, quite a weak pay-per-view to be honest, but it's better than nothing. Let me know your thoughts on this card and these predictions. Thank you for watching.